I'd like to introduce Rajeev. Rajeev is our Managing Director and CEO, and this is his brainchild, and he loves to conduct the session with the parents and the students together. So, Rajeev, over to you.
Thank you. Is it working? Hello? Yeah, it's working. Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to Dunia. This is a very special afternoon for us, and it's at the stage of this program where we like to fill up this room because I guess in this important exercise where we are helping our youngsters, the young talent here, to become what we call young leaders. And we use the word business, but in business it's got a much wider connotation than just making money. Sometimes people tend to confuse business with making money. And it's really about leadership. It's about leading whatever business you're in. And business doesn't always have to be anything to do with profiteering or profit making. So, how does it move? Okay. So, but we realized when we started running this about 3 years ago, as Miriam mentioned, one of the things we did realize in the first rendition that we did not do is we didn't get the parents in. And last year we did this as a first exercise, and this is the second time that we're doing it. The reason we do this program, by the way, the Young Business Leader program, is our way of dealing with what I believe is one of the strongest elements of giving back in the world, which is education. And of course, all of us go through school and colleges and do everything in life, but there's a strong practical connect that education sometimes loses between what is needed in the world to succeed versus all the technical concepts that you do. So the reason why we also get a bunch of people between 4 years apart, separation of each other in terms of courses, is because in real life you don't always work in a cohort of people who are all from the same batch. But when you study in school or college, you're often very similar, and you create a set of experiences and challenges that are very similar to yourselves. So when you go to an office or you start working in real life, you meet people who are 5, 6 years senior or junior to yourself, people who've had different experiences, and in some ways that's what we try to generate in this and put you through, or put your children through 2 or 3 weeks. This year, unfortunately, 2 weeks because of Eid. Otherwise, we would have done this for three weeks, which becomes very intense. Hello. But the whole intent is to be able to give a deep sense of experience of what it means to work in life and to be able to create value. It's about learning technical concepts. It's about learning how to interface with each other, make new friends, be thrown into your discomfort zone, lots of bonding exercises, lots of technical learning where specialists come in and teach you about management, about marketing, about accounting, about technology, all the essentials that you want to do. But that's just the base building block. The second block is a lot to do with people and how you deal with people. There can be a lot of people with great skills and knowledge, but they don't know what to do about it. Or sometimes even if they know how to do about it, they can't attract talent or can't take people along with them. And then the best of knowledge sometimes goes waste. And the third thing is, of course, once people have the ability to work with people, which is the highest level of skill, which unfortunately some people never make it in their lives, and we attempt to make people understand this pretty early, is you have the technical skills, you have the ability to work with people, you're very, very good, but you never use these two important skills of human skills and technical skills to put them together to create what I call a conceptual layer where you can think and frame things that haven't existed before and create true value that the world needs. And there are a few people who make those tangible differences in the world, be it in any field. It could be music, it could be art, it could be education, it could be mathematics. There are some outliers who just jump out with those technical and human skills and create value which makes a quantum difference to the world and actually makes the world grow. And the world needs such levels of growth, such levels of productivity changes in some fashion or form. At least I can speak for myself. I am a product who's benefited immensely through education, and I believe strongly that education empowers you, helps you grow out and expand your horizons, do well, and I'm sure many of you must have experienced the same. So the second reason why Dunia tries to do this is we want to make this Dunia, this world, all of us work in, a better place, and education is very, very important. We don't have any selfish reason for doing this, which is why we don't do this with college students who are about to graduate and look for jobs. We do this with school students who are far away from working. So while we would love to have each one of these young leaders come back to us 7, 8, 10 years later and work with Dunia and make it go globally in Dunia, it's very clear that we would like to empower children, or sorry, young adults, I have to be careful, the young adults early in life so that they can think and do things differently. And before I get on to my main presentation, I think Miriam touched upon this, but I would like to say it too. We are seeing a quantum change over the 3 batches. Each of them are consistently very bright. Each of them are consistently very focused, energetic, passionate. They have all the elements that people need. But we are seeing a shift in the language, in the kind of ideas, and the kind of futuristic new age technology and everything else that they think of. It shows you that the ecosystem is changing and they're absorbing things much faster. So what we would never talk about 2 years ago, the sharing economy, today these young children, these young adults talk about it automatically. It's native to them, you know, they just talk about it. They want to set clouds and they want to be able to do computing in a certain fashion. They want to think of, they don't have all the right solutions yet, but that's the way they're thinking. Stuff that we in our generation would never have thought of. And this shift has happened in 3 years, which is, sorry, 3 batches, which is 2 years. If the shift can be so dramatic, and a program like us, which is a discrete program that happens every summer, can experience it, you can imagine how fast the world is working and how outdated each one of us are going to be very, very soon. So someone asked me that we're going to grill, some parent asked me saying that we're going to grill the children today, and I said, well, hold your horses. This might just be a time when the kids are going to be grilling you. So we're going to have some fun today. Welcome to Dunia. I'm really grateful to each one of you for trusting us, for sending your kids, and I hope we haven't disappointed you so far. But we take this program very seriously and we'd love to contribute in some way or the other, and we keep learning. So we're not really a formal institution that learns or gives a degree, but we are an institution that was created by a set of us. We are founders, we are entrepreneurs who used our collective experience around the world in the various functions that we worked in to be able to build value and make a difference in people's lives. Today we employ 1,900 people and we are growing. This company started with 0 people some years back, just about 7, 8 years back. We built it from scratch and we're trying to build a brand that will hopefully impact the lives. We have today more than a couple of 100,000 clients and they're growing. We do make money, but we try to do good business. We do good business, but we believe that it's important to do good while you do good business. And that's one thing that we want to spread to each and every one of these young adults who will, by the end of this week, become alumni of our program. And hopefully, one thing they can't shake off is this tag of being the Dunia Young Business Leader at the end of it. So what we're going to do today is together explore the journey. Nothing in the development of leadership can be complete without the role of parents. So last year we realized that how can we even attempt to do this without involving the parents? Because the biggest influence to leadership is never just by the teachers, it's not just by the schools, it's of course a lot with the friends who you deal with, that they get a lot of exposure to. A lot with the educators, the people who come in and give their experiences, inspire them to think big. That's why they've met and will meet some very big senior CEOs, people who are entrepreneurs, people in different fields, education, health, restaurants, fashion designers. We do all of that because you can choose the fields you want. You don't have to do what we did when we were young. When we were young, you could either be an engineer, a doctor, or a chartered accountant. Right? How many of you agree with me? There you go. There wasn't anything else. If you went back to your parents and said, I want to do something else, you'd probably get scolded, to put it mildly, right? So today, it doesn't work that way. Firstly, you've got a hope in hell if your children are going to listen to you. The second is, even if they listen to you, the options are far, far different. So today, we are here to collectively decide what leadership means. And we will have to be a little frank and honest. We'll have to dare each other. I'm going to go around and ask it. I don't have really a speech, but I'm going to be a mere facilitator. But I'd like to hear what you think about things. The children are here watching you. They will also talk, but this is a session for parents. So in case you came here to grill your kids, there's a little bit of grilling for each one of you. But the good thing is I'm on your side because I too am a parent. And what we're trying to do, and I need your help to be able to help me understand how you can impart these skills, how you can understand, and hopefully we'll come out wiser, hear from them and hear from us, and together be able to chart a course. Because one thing we've discovered over the last few days, each one of them is a leader. We have found leadership qualities in each one of them, and that tells you a whole lot. So are we ready for the challenge and the exercise? You see, yes, it's great. It's really great to see parents come here promptly at 3 o'clock or 2:45. When is your children? So initially when we were writing this letter last year, Miriam showed me the draft and said, dear parents, it would be really nice if you would consider coming to this event and be with the children. We understand it's a short notice. And I said, Miriam, trash it. Just write, please report to this place at 3 o'clock to be with your kids. She said, how could we talk to them like that? I said, of course you can talk to them like that. They're not doing it for you, they're doing it for their kids. This is the day when dads take time off from their offices. They promptly reach on time. Moms cancel all their engagements and land up in time. And that's the power of kids. And, you know, so it means a lot. So for all you young adults here, you should realize how important you are to your parents. Okay, so how do we define what a good leader is? Sir?
The one who inspires a lot of people.
Okay. Would you like to try?
Someone who leads by example.
Someone who leads by example?
I'll agree with your point. Anybody that brings technical and human skills together.
Anybody who builds technical and human skills together? Great. Anybody else? One last. Okay, Shankar, you can tell me. I know you'll have a bright answer.
Well, there are many things, but what comes to mind is that a good leader is someone who helps somebody else discover for themselves what is it that is great in them, and therefore facilitates the process of discovery.
So a good leader is one who facilitates. Let's ask the youngsters. What do you think, Ragini?
Someone who leads the way, who discovers strengths in others.
Okay. And you? Anything. No, anybody can give an answer.
Someone who's compassionate.
Somebody who's compassionate, very important.
Someone who leads others.
Someone who leads?
Others.
Leads, orders them around. Okay. So isn't that true? There are so many explanations. Is any of them wrong? Nicole, you can give us one last answer. She's a lawyer, so.
Well, someone who interprets things and helps others to understand.
Someone who interprets things like a good legal definition. She's given us the right answer. That interpretation is important, and there's got to be an opinion. Before we talk about it and try to define it, but they've been very good definitions. I think each and every one of them are right, unless anybody believes they're wrong. But before we try to come down to an answer, who is your role model leader? Sir?
I guess it changes as we start out when we're young, looking at our parents. And soon, in our teens, they become not your role model per se, but you tend to find business and others that you'd like to follow.
So would you like to give us a name of something or somebody or a person who you think is a leader?
Well,
Your role model leader.
I would put Bill Clinton.
Bill Clinton, okay. So that's Bill Clinton. And you, ma'am?
Well, I would say you're a leader.
Oh,
You're leading
okay.
so many children.
Okay, thank you. That's diplomatic. And you?
I would say somebody like Mahatma Gandhi.
Mahatma Gandhi. So that's a good leader. And you, sir?
Well, I say Sheikh Mohammed here in Dubai.
Sheikh Mohammed here in Dubai, of course, is a great leader. Let's ask the children. Sorry?
The Prophet.
The Prophet, of course, leads everyone. And you?
Steve Jobs.
Steve Jobs is a leader. Malala is a leader. Navneet?
Alex Ferguson.
Okay. So now we've got names of leaders that people think they're leaders, right? So correlated back with what you just said. Have you met your role model in person or someone who's similar to a true leader? Right? All of you have mentioned some leaders. Have any of you met true leaders? Yes, you met.
No, I haven't.
You haven't. Who's your leader, sir?
I met one gentleman called Rajeev Kakar in Delhi. I think I would consider the leader that I met.
So a gentleman who you have dealt with and interfaced with, he's a leader by the name of Ravi Kumar. And why does he impress you?
Well, he has a large portfolio, about 50,000 crores, and he does it with great peace and does it within 8 hours of the day.
Excellent. So he, with 8 hours of work, can make 50,000 crores. Wow, that's a lot of 50,000 crores, Osman. Before you wonder, is $8 billion. So that's a lot of money. We have a insurance specialist here, so from MetLife. Who have you met your leader?
Well, I think I've been privileged to meet many interesting people. You are one of them. But I think in the industry, it's Hank Greenberg was one that I could remember in terms of insurance industry.
So that's Hank Greenberg of Alico, who was an absolute star. Let's ask the young adults. Have you ever met your role models? Young lady.
Well, I think we have the opportunity to meet new role models every day in our generation, in our society. So I don't think we can be limited to just one role model.
But have you met any of your role models?
Yeah, I have.
Name them.
I would say my parents.
Oh, diplomatic, yeah. Amar?
Yeah, my mom's a side leader for Dell, which is pretty cool. Who else? I've met, yeah, my mom's the best leader I've met.
Okay. She sure is. She prompted him and said, yes, stick to this. Colin, right?
Yes. I've not met any of my role models, other than my parents, obviously. But I think a great leader is Steve Jobs. And Bill Gates as well.
So Bill Gates and Steve Jobs. So what are we seeing? Everyone seems to have different leaders, right? Right? What is coming out of this? What do you think is emerging?
Everybody can have a different role model depending upon how they see somebody who inspires them or their attitude.
Their attitude to life. So everyone has a name. So when it comes to leadership, we talk about very similar qualities. One of the things I notice is everyone talks about good qualities. Right? So when you start defining, we talk about good qualities. When you start talking about people, and when you're asked to name somebody, you start talking about heroes. Right? Everyone who is well known. So we're always looking for models, and when we think of models, we think of people who are outliers. A lot of people said Mahatma Gandhi, somebody said Mahatma Gandhi, somebody said Steve Jobs, somebody said Hank Greenberg, somebody said the various names. But literally, Sheikh Mohammed, everybody that you talk about are people who stand out. They are people in positions of power, positions of wealth, positions of having achieved either a lot of wealth or having done a lot of things in an outlier sense. And in some ways, one of the ways to describe leadership is to be outstanding. Is that correct? Noor?
Not always. I mean, there are a lot of leaders out there who haven't been noticed but have been very influential.
Give me one example.
Well, there was a movie, I think, of Alan Turing. He created the computer and the basis of the computer, but he wasn't really well known.
And he wasn't well known. I'm forgetting the name of the guy who was the first person who stepped on the moon. Yes, but I'm forgetting the name of the guy who was at... No, Buzz Aldrin was the second. There was a guy who was with him who was actually trained to step off first, but he chose to be polite. No, that was Buzz Aldrin, but his Collins. So he just decided to be polite. And he said, why don't you go first? And no one knows him, right? So does that not make him a leader? He was the one who went through a lot of training. The other guy, he was just polite. So is it not good to be polite when you're a leader? Okay.
No, you can lead your life. You don't have to be well. It's not about how much panache your name carries. It's just, you can get, like, I would consider when you were asking about role model, I'll put my grandmother as a leader, because all through her life she's given us so much, and she was a homemaker, but she was a true leader.
So she was a true maker, a homemaker and a true leader. Wonderful. So suddenly, as you question yourself, no longer do you need to be well-known. But you notice what the natural inclination is? When I went around the first time till I prompted people, apart from one or two people who mentioned ordinary people, and there's nothing wrong with it. Sorry. There's nothing wrong with it. Those are the benchmarks everybody uses. And in some ways, we as parents are guilty of falling prey to that and sometimes using those definitions and examples when we deal with our own children. How unfair is that? Right? How unfair is that when we use benchmarks which are probably not right? Turning around and asking people, telling your kid, oh, okay, what did you get? Aren't you in your school varsity team? Did you not get the gold medal? Are you not going to be doing this? When are you going to be in the honors committee in your school? Right? How many of you have ever heard those questions? Come on, for the young adults. Right? No, come on, higher. And how many of you, what is your reaction at that point of time? Since your hand was going up and down.
No, I was just happy that I really participated and had my best, even though I didn't win anything.
And you?
Yeah, I'm happy to participate, and I just like, is it really important to win? I just participated.
And?
Probably the same thing, but then you get you think of like, what could we have done better? Can I stop down?
Okay, this is a very proper set of young adults. How many of you who feel negatively about your parents at that time?
I didn't feel negatively. I just felt that they wanted me to achieve my fullest potential and do better, the best I could at least.
So you all get motivated at that time. Nobody feels any sense of resentment. This is your time to get away with all the stuff you want to tell your parents. This is a very good set of people. Last year everyone told me, yeah, these people need to be taught a lesson. Right? Anybody with a different view? Arjun? Your parents are right there.
I think for me, obviously at times it's a bit demoralizing, but then you have to look at it in the right way, that the parents only want what's best for you. And I think my parents have told me that. And so it should be looked as a motivational thing rather than them trying to put you down.
But what's your instant reaction?
Probably can't say it, but
okay. Well, this is, yeah.
Adding to what Arjun said, see, we all have that thing inside us. It's not just parents, it's us too. Because if we tell our parents something, they're going to get angry at that moment. So there have been so many times that I've been scolded for things. Dad and mom, they go all out on me, yeah? And there have been times that I get really angry and I get all emotional, but let it sink in. You get angry, slam the door, break a few things, let it out. Punch a few walls, but 15 to 20 minutes later or even an hour later, you know that they're right. So they've that anger or that resentment is just instantaneous. It just happens and then you let it go. So they're right. Whatever they want what's best for you.
So the vote is that parents, you can go ahead and get angry with kids when they don't. Yeah? Tahir? This is your chance. This is the referendum.
Okay, my parents aren't here, but I think there are cameras, so it's turning a bit into group therapy, so I'm just going to be frank real quick. if any person here says that they don't feel resentment when somebody gives them criticism, they're either very, very, very accepting, and in which case they're not going to move forward, or alternatively, they don't accept it and they use it to fuel themselves. That's what I think separates this group from the people that apply.
So how do you react?
Maybe people should be criticizing me. I'll find out. Personally, at first I get angry, and then over time, with my reflection, I don't really accept it. It's more kind of like, okay, he doesn't like this about me, let's prove him wrong.
Okay.
And just kind of goes from there.
Okay, great. So let me ask parents, how many of you overreact when your kid doesn't make it to what your best friend's child has made it to?
At times we do overreact, yes. We've got some dreams, some aspirations for our children, and at times when they don't make it, we do feel it.
So you tend to react.
I think it's only natural, I think, as parents to want the best for your children, and we can give them the advice that they want, and so you get a bit emotional sometimes, but however I think it's a learning process. We understanding the children and they knowing exactly what is expected from us as well.
So this is, it's okay to give them because it's a learning process. And Kritika, what do you have to say?
I think it's a factor of how you've been brought up. We've been brought up to always be number one and fight and excel, compete. So yeah, I am guilty of pulling them up, but over time I've learned that it's not necessarily the best way.
So we have a very politically correct set of parents and a very politically correct set of young children. But in very subtle undertones, each one of them have admitted that I like to tear my hair and get upset with them. And how dare do they not win that medal or be in that team, right? That's what it's seeming like. But do you believe that you're a leader yourself? How many of the parents believe they're leaders themselves? Sir?
Yes. Yeah, we all are leaders in our own space, at office, at home.
Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
And why?
Because we have a vision and we work towards that vision, whether it's for children or for your office environment. And to fulfill that vision, you have to lead and set an example.
And do you get upset with your kids when they don't achieve?
Absolutely.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay, and how do your kids react? This is a full 360.
Okay, 360. Yeah, today generation, they react a little bit more aggressively than we used to react, and you have to also accommodate that aggression and
Great.
So, yes, they will react.
For all of you who don't know, our generation would probably be locked in the bathroom. I guess none of you are allowed. We'd all be arrested for abuse if we did that. But yes, ma'am.
Yes, as a parent, as a human being, I feel I'm a leader.
Very good.
And I feel so strongly because we've grown from being children to teenagers to working moms and bringing up families, bringing up our own children who would get into the world. It's a vision, so we get into the world and be better human beings and more progressive, creating opportunities and happiness around.
Very good. So she's a leader because she influences things around her and creates an ecosystem where everyone gets better, the world benefits, and that's leadership. It's influencing change, right? Does anyone else have a different understanding to this? Yes, sir.
I think as parents, we have to focus on the efforts and the results as consequence. So if we only put the results as a target, then we miss the whole concept of how much effort and how much really they're putting behind to get to their goal.
So you're saying focus more on the effort, less on the result?
The result is consequence.
The result is consequence. So it doesn't matter as long as the right effort is put in, the result is consequence. Okay, I want a very honest, quick answer. I'm going to measure it in terms of speed. How many children believe that their parents are their role model leader? Quick! Okay. Yes. I was looking for one hand that didn't go up. Okay. And how many parents believe that their kids are leaders, they're role model leaders? Oh. Very good. Now, if you can be objective, And if someone is willing to say the truth, was there any child here who did not put up his or her hand when it came to their parent being a role model leader? Was there any parent who did not put up their hand that the child was not a role model leader? So none. None. Wow. Then hold on, why were my questions relevant in the past when I went around and all of you were disappointed? If you're sitting with the role model leaders, why were you ever disappointed? Yes, sir. So someone's not saying the truth here.
I don't think parents are really angry with their kids.
Oh, wow. Yes, I agree with you.
I believe that all of us have expectations. We see a child and we see potential. And I think it's a frustration that the child is not really achieving their full potential that brings out frustration. Sometimes it's a stick, sometimes it's
a carrot.
Sometimes it's a carrot. Yeah.
Yes.
So we use various techniques. I think sometimes anger is what comes out. It's a manifestation of frustration.
Absolutely. So it's basically fundamental care that a parent has and a child has. Actually, what's reflecting here is nothing different from what I would expect or what I would do. Because it's the one relationship where every parent anywhere in the world or every person anywhere in the world is only happy to see someone do better than themselves, truly and consistently, when it's your own child, right? So it's a manifestation. So there's nothing wrong in saying, I get upset. Because you do, that's your natural style. And like it or not, all of us react like this. And people react differently. And I can see some of the young adults sniggering and winking at each other. And they're saying, you know. So the point is, how you react and why you react. You're so right. What you said is so right. And even what you said is, it's the effort which matters and not the consequence. But it's this effort which drives us to behave the way we do. This frustration that you call frustration is this deep desire that our kids should get even better and even better and even better, that sometimes transfers our anxiety onto them when they may have a different understanding of the same situation completely. Right? And I'm not a specialist because I myself am guilty of it sometimes, because you want your kids to live the life that you did never lead. Right? That's the problem. Most of us like to lead the lives or shape the lives of children according to the standards we wanted to live or never did live. So we can only be leaders if we allow, and all of you gave some excellent descriptions around leadership, that you can, a leader is one who leads, one who follows, one who does this thing, one who listens to people, one who shapes, one who influences. Everyone said all the right things, right? A leader is someone who facilitates others to lead. And only when everyone leads can you benefit from the ecosystem. And all of you are leaders. But the funny thing is that your children who you lead, supposedly, are also leaders. So the question is, who's leading whom? Leading is definitely not ordering or directing. Leading is shaping and influencing. And leadership by influence is one of the toughest things in the world, which many people do not sometimes realize. And you're absolutely right. Carrot and stick. You have to do it. Critical parent, nurturing parent, call it what you have to. But that is the role where you can selflessly bring change and do things knowing fully well that the end of it, however nasty, however tough, however unreasonable, right? The young adults, the young business leaders, however unreasonable parents have been, when it comes to putting up your hands, you vote and root for your parents, right? Because you know that there is an undercurrent of care. How beautiful is this relationship? Imagine if this relationship could extend and this feeling could extend to everyone across the world, where we would suddenly realize there's a scope for everyone to be a leader in something or the other, and you don't need to compete. You need to facilitate. The world has changed. You don't need to lead to be a leader. This is a rise of the sharing economy. You must have read these. There was an article even today in Gulf News. We are all living in a sharing economy. More and more of the world is not about I, me, myself. It's about us together, all of us. And that is the difference. And it started pretty much from this famous book by Thomas Friedman, which was The World is Flat. And it was a nice name to give. Back in 2000 and I think it was 5 or 6. And today it's becoming even truer and truer. The world is so networked that things are changing. So who, if now all of you are giving me names, and the young leaders are not supposed to answer this because I gave them the answer when I spoke to them on the first day. It's the answer I believe is right, so you can disagree with me. It doesn't have to be the right answer. But for the purposes of this exercise, who do you think, if you were to describe a leader, is the best description? Who? What kind of person is the best description of a leader? Yes, ma'am.
A person who leads by example.
A person who leads, but give me a physical description of such a person. We are not talking attributes now.
Someone whom I can just watch and learn from without them.
So give me an example of such a person who we all see. A type of person, a person. We've gone through exercise where we named Steve Jobs and Mahatma Gandhi. We've done all that, right? We've talked attributes. So we are done with that. We've agreed. Now can we think of who would fit all these attributes most easily? Because we need lots of leaders. We've just established that. So would you like to try again? Some description.
You're asking for a name?
No, a description so that we can identify leaders. I'll just come, sir. Okay, you need time to think. I'll be back.
I guess you're looking for attributes, right?
No.
Someone who walks the talk.
Someone who?
Walks the talk.
Someone who walks the talk. Okay, how do you identify someone who walks the talk?
I would put a name to it, Narendra Modi.
Narendra,
He walks the talk.
He walks the talk. But again, it becomes a name. I'm trying not to, because there's only one Narendra Modi. There's one Sheikh Mo. There's one Steve Jobs. Right? So I feel scared that in a world of 7 billion, there are only such few leaders. I don't want to be in a world which is very few leaders.
Their position, like a teacher.
It can be a teacher as a leader. Okay, great. That can be. So any teacher could be leader.
Leads with no title.
Somebody who leads with no title. But still, you have to know the occupation of the person to decide whether it's a leader. In this case, you have to watch the person to know if the person is a leader.
Example, Bill Gates.
Example, Bill Gates. But again, Bill Gates is one person, and to know somebody who does that, you'll have to watch him over time. But if you instantly see a person, without watching him, without knowing his name or her name,
Somebody in Tamil Nadu who goes around feeding beggars, you know, he used to work as a chef. He quit his job.
Yes.
He goes around, moves around.
so that's one person. That's one person. But if you just look at a community, I have to go there and I'll be back. If you just look at a community and look at a person without him or her opening his mouth and just keeping quiet, how would you decide if this is a leader? I'm back.
See, he walks into the room to his team feels more confident of achieving what they largely, collectively were trying to achieve. Just his presence inspires them, not motivates them, inspires them.
Okay. I'll just be here. Yes, sir?
Yeah, who gives up selfishness and takes the challenge?
Okay. All the answers are right, but you still have to see a little bit of action before you decide. Yes, ma'am? You have to still watch him for a bit.
Maybe a person with self-confidence.
Person with self-confidence, but you still have to watch them to decide that. Can you just look at someone who hasn't moved? Gautam, but again, one person. How do you look at a person who hasn't moved? You just see it and say, that's got to be a leader. He doesn't judge you. He is unconditional, but you still have to interface with the person for a while before you know it's a leader.
I would say a mother.
A mother. Very good. But how do you look at a lady and know she's a mother? So, good answer. But how do you, sorry ma'am? From the patience the person demonstrates. But you still have to watch the person for a while to know that the person is patient.
Well, I actually mean this.
You can tell, yes.
I mean this because in the previous few minutes we talked about how each one of us is a leader. So I actually start the narrative by presupposing that everybody's a leader.
Very good. So this is Shankar at his diplomatic best. Everybody, that's true.
Everybody's.
But we are all contaminated.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Who is the leader?
Yes, yes.
Like somebody mentioned the mother, that's what's coming to my mind, because she's the one who's selfless. Again, a leader is selfless.
Yes.
She's the one who's full of compassion. A
Yes.
leader has to be compassionate. He has to think of others before he thinks of himself.
Absolutely.
And
She shapes the future of the child.
So that's why I'd taken the mother name of my
Grandmother.
You said, yeah. Because
And somebody who works with people and people are influenced by him. So, I mean, if we see a person and there are others looking up to him,
So you still have to watch the person. I agree with you. They're selfless. Mother is a very good example, but you still have to know whether she is a mother or a lady. You see, there's nobody, I mean, we know your mother's here, but if you walk and go up to a lady and who's... Okay, every woman can be a mother. That's a good answer.
I think someone who has the ability to draw people towards them, they're always surrounded by people, they're very resourceful, so people just kind of, go to them for advice or anything. It's a very natural thing to do.
Okay, but again, ma'am, you'll have to watch the person for a bit. A little bit.
I think it's somebody you can just blindly trust.
Yes.
You're looking at them and you trust them.
You feel safe with them, you trust them, you can't ignore them. And so let me share with you what I think. Yes? Okay, sorry, ma'am. Body language, very good answer. Charisma you have to experience, but body language perhaps is a good answer. Well, I would say one of the best leaders is that. A 3-year-old, 2-year-old child. Have you seen a 2-year-old child? How does a 2-year-old child walk? If they just walk in here, they'll just walk here. They will say tat tat tat. They will walk here. They'll spit on somebody. They'll smile. And guess what? All of you will stop. They're spontaneous. They have a swagger. They feel like being, forgive me for saying that, they'll do it. They don't like you, they'll spit on your face. They want something, they'll cry. But they get everything that they want. 1 minute they'll get angry with you, next minute they'll care. They don't carry any baggage. They don't mean any malice. They have confidence that nobody now has before. Their minds have not been contaminated. They are not politically correct. And yet, everyone loves everyone's babies, right? Why can't we remain babies all our lives and be leaders? Why can't we be spontaneous? Why can't we react to things the way they do? All of us, the parents, are at least 50 years too late to be leaders. Aren't we? We are. We are. Look at the language. Yes, I'm just trying to say, how many of these things do we any longer do?
But we still have the child inside us, so there's never too late, we can bring that child out.
Yes, but how many times do we bring it out?
We can realize it and we can work on it.
Try it with your kids today and they'll say, Mom, don't be silly. You're embarrassing me, right?
No, I think they'd love it.
They'd love it. Okay, great. Do you agree with us?
Yes, I do.
You do? What do you agree with?
Because I act a lot like I used to before, so I don't think it's very different.
So she acts a lot like she did before. So how many times do you spit at people? Not much. But of course, I mean, what I mean is that it's symbolic. A 1 to 3-year-old boy or girl, carefree, spontaneous, fun-loving, stubborn, persistent, optimistic, confident, happy. How many of you ever said this about the attributes of a leader? We were talking about people who were Mahatma Gandhi, people like Sheikh Mo, people who made 50,000 crores. You don't have to be. You have to have those attributes to be a leader. And all your answers were right, by the way. This results in charisma. Imagine the charisma of a kid. Have you ever seen anybody's kid in a mall and you say, Kuchiku, so cute, isn't the kid nice? Right? Everyone likes everyone's kids. Everyone likes kids of pets or, animals or anything. There's something that makes them being cared for. They are so helpless and yet they take center of attention. A leader must catch the attention of people. A good leader must have the good of other people in their minds. A good leader must have a vision, but must have a goal and will get what he wants or she wants at any cost. And a kid wants you to repeat the nursery rhyme 50 times, like it or not, you will. When your parents ask you to repeat, I'm talking about grandparents of the young adults and your parents, You say, come on dad, don't you understand what I'm saying? But if your kids, when they were young, you say, okay, say that nursery rhyme again, okay again. Come on, play that thing with me again, okay again. For 50,000 times you would love repeating it. Today you don't. So there is a power that this group has. Because what we lose over time, as we gain intelligence, we lose our natural spontaneity. Each one of us is a leader. And sometimes the world shapes us differently from what we should be. So are we not doing a fundamental disservice? The animal spirits that we have, of course, short of doing something stupid, but persistence, optimism, stubbornness, confidence, to me these are attributes of leaders. Whenever I play the limited role of leadership, at least in the company, I'm stubborn as hell. Right? If you're not stubborn, stubborn doesn't mean you don't listen to people. But stubborn means you define high standards and then you stubbornly, persistently, furiously, and with great excruciating detail, stay with it. So a message for the young adults, if you want to be a singer or a dancer or a musician or you want to be a fashion designer or something that your parents would faint at, you have to be persistent. You'll have to convince them, you have to do very well at it, because one of the things the parents said was, consequence can be anything, but your efforts must be truly there so that you're not just wasting your time. And how many of us parents, we have to widen our perspective to allow that to happen. It's all fashionable talk to say, it doesn't matter to me if my child comes up to me in the morning and says, I don't want to study, but I want to take a gap year. You know, at least I know a lot of people from my part of the world where you come back, most would have a heart attack if they suddenly heard that the kids. But it's very fashionable to say, wow, they took a gap year. You know, it's very nice to talk about it in social conversations, but if your kid did it, what's wrong with you? You get a call in the office and say, you know, there's something seriously wrong, you better stop working. You need to be at home. Your kid wants a gap year, as the heavens have fallen. I'm not suggesting you take a gap year. All I'm trying to say is, if this young kid wanted to do what it wanted to do, wants to sleep, they'll sleep in the middle of the floor. Wants something to eat, we'll get it from you. You don't give it, they'll figure out a way to get it. And they are getting smarter, they're getting programmed better and faster than you can ever imagine. The minds are working exponentially faster. The gap between us and our kids is at least 20 to 30 years. And I've just talked about three batches of kids between 2 years who are talking completely different language. So if I was to go back and be a parent yet again from the beginning, I'd be a very different parent. I'd be far more open but the message for each of you young adults is you have to be even more open because the world is moving at even a faster pace for you. And you will realize that you will get far more outpaced than we laggards ever did. Life did not move so fast for us. So that's the leader for you. Isn't it? That's the leader for you. You talk about Richard Branson. You talk about Mahatma Gandhi. He changed his dress. You talk about Sheikh Mohammed. He's revolutionized Dubai. Somebody mentioned Greenberg. He's known to be a person who had his way, right? And he took the company to great heights. And of course, later the company, for different reasons, went differently. But if you look at the old employees of Alico, they still, talk about it. So they are leaders, but they can be good leaders, they can be bad leaders. But the power of leaders can't be ignored. And unfortunately, history judges leaders. But there are very few leaders who actually mean harm. Nobody mentioned Adolf Hitler, right? Was he a good leader or a bad leader? How many feel he was a bad leader? So that means all of you feel he's a good leader. Right? Anybody who feels he's a bad leader?
I actually do.
Okay.
No, I don't. What I want to say is, I think there's a difference between a leader and a role model. It can't.
Very good.
For example, Adolf Hitler, you gave the example. I agree, he was a very good leader, but not a good role model. Similarly, if you see Sachin Tendulkar, I mean, every cricketer aspires to become Tendulkar, so he's a very good role model. But as a captain, he failed miserably. So he wasn't a good leader to lead the team, but very good role model. So the one person maybe have two attributes, but not necessarily.
Very good. I'll just come back to that though.
And the reason for that is that we, the very fact that we are human beings, we've moved from instincts to intellect to intuition. And therefore we are driven by certain core values and beliefs. And if that is violated, no matter how great you are not a great leader.
Great. So you're not a good leader, you may not be a great leader, but you're a leader nonetheless. And that power needs to be understood. Because when you talk about, say, and I don't have a view on Mr. Hitler, but I'm just saying, given what Adolf Hitler is often talked about, but if you read German history, he also had one of the biggest fan following. If you look at the execution of how he simultaneously attacked multiple borders and took over most of Europe in no time, he had the execution excellence, the energy, despite his physical stature, and he was obviously a role model to the Germans who were following him. So it was blind faith, and he was driven by a deep desire, because Nazi Germany was coming out of unemployment and recession. His gain was he had to protect his people. So his motives were right for his people, but his means were not right. What he did in the broader sense of humanity and what he impacted was not right. But you've got to realize that there will always be, just like each one of you voted for your children as leaders, very few of you said, no, not my child, but my friend's child is a leader. That may be true, right? But it's not politically correct. So even the gentleman we are talking about did it for his people. So keep it in mind and keep it in the right frame. History judges people sometimes unfairly or fairly. I am no one to question that. But a lot of that eventually is what collective wisdom is, collective views are, or as you mentioned yourself, somebody could be a good leader, but somebody may not be a good role model. And again, leading is not always leading in terms of ordering and directing. Not being a captain is a skill. You've got to realize that different people are kings in different situations. And similarly, your kids, there's no harm in admitting that my kid is the leader when it comes to sports. My kid is a leader when it comes to playing the violin. But when you say my kid is a leader, in some ways you are giving yourselves and your kids maybe a very broad brush definition, and there's an element of bias because you're almost giving an impression to your own kid or to yourself that there can be no other leader. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong, I do the same. Listen, I'm nobody here to turn around and make a call on what's right or wrong. I'm just a parent like yourself. I'm not a specialist, but as I deal with people, and I worked in multiple countries, I realize from my own faults, many of these learnings are from my own faults that I've made in my career dealing with people. I've dealt with over 20 to 25,000 people in multiple countries by now, and many of them in leadership positions, corporate leadership positions. And I've realized that where I was often controlling people, I wasn't controlling them. They were controlling you. And the other realization as a parent is, as you go through different stages of parenthood, you think you're leading your kids. You're actually not. You can only influence your kids. And your kids have no business to live your life by your standards, because you don't know enough about the world out there and the opportunities ahead. So when I say this is like a blank hard drive of a computer that is beautifully programmed, but it's got all the skills, but it doesn't have the contamination yet. If we could remain like that, we'd be spontaneous, we'd be caring like your grandmother was, and everyone's grandmother is, and everyone's mother is, and everyone who we think are role models. We could be great players, but we could be great sportsmen. We could find so much more opportunity for ourselves, which sometimes never gets realized, because we have always been grilled into a fixed channel. I mean, Shankar here today, he's my former colleague from Citibank. Shankar here today makes plays. He's a great inspirational leader. He speaks. He's a thought leader. And he chose to follow his passion. So sometimes it takes many years for you to do what you should have done in the first place. You find yourself over time. But very few people have the courage to do this. Today's children have the wherewithal. Certainly your children, with all the resources we have the wherewithal to take these right chances. So keep this in mind. Right? Ragini, you agree? You're laughing. Is it a yay? I'm going to tell my dad I'm going to do something different now, or?
No, I was just looking back at pictures. I actually have a 3-year-old brother, so I was kind of relating to what you were saying.
Is he a leader?
Considering your explanation and the viewpoint that you presented, yes.
Does he get away with more things than you do?
Definitely. He once, like, we went out shopping. He just slept in the middle of the mall. We couldn't get him up for like 40 minutes. We were there on the floor. He was there on the floor.
And if he wants something, he gets it?
He most definitely gets it.
And when you want it?
There has to be a little more coaxing and like, please have it, and then an explanation of the pros and cons, etc.
Right? So suddenly there's contamination. So that's, but actually what I was trying to tell you in a very subtle way, I'm not that bright, I could have said it in the first line, but there is, you've got to discover for yourself, there's a leader in each one of us. So ideally, the right answer would have been, when I asked you, how many of you believe your kids are leaders? The right answer could be, my kid is a leader when it's here, and all of these kids, I gave you a hint up front, all of them are leaders. Each one of them, and we try to find very clearly, over these days, we give them assignments, we give them deadlines, we make them come under pressure. When they complain that there's too much work, we actually double up the work. We do. If someone doesn't do their assignments in time, we get to know what it is. We tell them, you got to do it, because you better learn this now in life than later, right? You figure out how the work has been divided. Group work, how does it happen? You do the first part, I do the second?
Yeah, you kind of distribute it.
Yeah. So you distribute it. Do mom and dad do that?
Yeah, no, not.
Huh?
Like dad does one thing, mom does the other.
So do mom and dad say, okay, I play parent today, you play parent tomorrow?
No, not that way. That
No.
way they're both there. More, sometimes dad's more, sometimes mom's more, it all depends.
Or are they playing good cop, bad cop?
Yeah, sometimes. Everything's there.
Let me tell you an inside story. Mom and dad are always co-conspirators. They always work together and say, in this case, let me handle it, okay? I will handle it. You don't know how to handle this situation, right? Right? And you pretend I don't know. Does anybody disagree? And you get angry because you're the only one they're scared of. And for this, you stay out of it, okay? Because you're totally insensitive. How many of you relate to this? How many brave parents can put their hands up? I can, right? Nicole can, so lawyers also put up their hands. So some of you are always involved or never involved is the sense I'm getting. Because some of you didn't put up your hands. So all you young adults, you should know that there is a conspiracy against it. They are all trying to manage you. Isn't it? Reena? Yes or no? So is that a sense of power for the youngsters or a sense of weakness? Sorry?
Telling them now is a sense of power.
For you or for them? There you go, right?
Yeah, it's like when we come to convince them, now we know what to do.
Now you know what to do, right? But you know what? They already know what to do. They know what to, whose soft corner to address at what time. How many of you agree with that? They know when to go to dad, when to go to mom, when to go to grandmom, right? Because what do they become at that point of time? They become kids again. They know very easily how they can play one versus the other. So what you think is conspiracy, you're pretty bad at it, let me tell you. Right? How many of you will admit that you know about this conspiracy and how you can crack it? How many of you young adults know that? You know exactly how to manipulate, right? Come on. Yes or no? Okay, anybody who didn't put up their hands. How many of you are not wise to the fact that mom and dad can be manipulated? But I didn't see so many hands. Right? They're not going to admit it. But they tell, by the way, we had a session like this and they told us everything. So we have. So in essence, now this is a silly technical chart, but bear with me. In essence, please remember that this is a famous bell curve. Every kid and every person you work with in life is a leader. And there's nothing better than the normal curve when it comes to a universal truth. Do you agree with that? The concept of a universal curve is a universal truth. A normal curve, is it or is it not? Does anybody not understand the normal curve? I'd like to explain. A normal curve merely means that if you take on any dimension, you plot the number of people say you're looking at height, and you take a dispersion of height, the number of people who are very short will be very few, the number of very tall will be very few. So they'll be somewhere around the average, most people will be there, right? That's true. If you take weight, it's the same thing. If you take a population of people in a country of giants, even there, you'll have short giants and taller giants. You'll have smaller dinosaurs and bigger dinosaurs. But there's always nobody's identical. Only Barbie dolls look identical, right? Because they come out of factories. But if you actually blow up a Barbie doll to full scale, you can't get a human being. That's true, by the way. If you're engineering focused, you get that. But it does mean that this model is true in nature, and it will be true anywhere in the world. And it applies to anything. But it does mean that where does the strength of any population come from? In this, if this is the distribution. I'm sorry? From here? The center? There you go. The weight is always in the center. So what you call average, what you call a median, is the most powerful concept in the world. So I absolutely dislike the word average, because there is nobody called an average. That is the strength of the curve. So anybody who's there is powerful, confident, a leader, agree with her, strong. That's it. That's the best word I was looking for. The others are great too, but strong. So you're strong, but yet, if your kid gets curved out in an exam and you get the center, what does your dad say?
Honestly, my parents in that sense are really supportive. Like, they don't expect much, but I'm speaking honestly. I'm
Dad,
not lying.
you agree with that? You don't mind?
Then I'm the good cop.
You don't mind?
Of course we don't.
You don't mind.
That
So
was an honest opinion.
She tries her best, and the result comes.
And that's the learning. There's a learning curve.
yes, but you got to realize that your kids are normal. It's a normal curve. It's not an abnormal curve, right? So a normal curve by definition means you're perfectly normal and you're damn strong if you're here on whatever attribute you're looking at. If it's height, you're good height. What does tall or short mean? You're good height. You don't want to be too long that you can't get your clothes in the section when you go to it, right? If it's intelligence, I don't know how to define intelligence is here. If it's weight, you look normal, right? In a population, if you were walking around with anorexic people, you'd look funny even if you were my weight. But if you're walking in a world where people were slightly heavier, then being very thin can look out of place. So it's a question of being in. So any attribute, as long as you can be here, so stop using the word average. Sometimes the labels you put on particular levels of performances or actions sends a wrong message to your children and to yourself. This is something that has been imposed upon you in life, that it can only be good if it is this or that or the other. You have to be first, second, third to be the best. Which is not to say any of you should go back and stop studying. That is not it. You have to keep studying, because as you keep studying, as you keep doing more effort, as one parent said, everyone else is also doing a lot of effort. This curve only shifts this way. So as a population improves, it moves this way. So the median improves, but there's always a median. There's always a measure of central tendency. You will always have something in average. So you've got to find where is your kid an outlier in? Because we all need role models. We all need to say, on this factor, my kid is very smart, right? But frankly, do you wish that your kid is an outlier on something and useless in the other? No. We all want to be very strong in general and one or two good things that we stand out for, right? So suddenly, there are lots of places to become leaders in. So if you were to now break it up, I'm just using examples, if it was mathematics, music, cricket, soccer, English, science, we are watching kids over these 2 weeks. You know, we're not being invasive, so nobody's got cameras and chips inside you. But we see how you participate in class, how do you ask questions, we see how you do your assignments, who stands out in certain things. Some people are great at doing the slides, some are great at talking, some are great at coordinating, and then there'll be a talent show tomorrow, right? And then how do they interface? How are people interfacing with each other after class, before class? Suddenly, how many leadership positions are there? How many? Unlimited. Every interface there is a new leadership position. And the same child or the same person, forget the youngsters here, even we could be here in math, exceptional. We could be lousy in music, sounds like me. We could be exceptional in credit, again, not me. And we could be strong in soccer, very good in English, and just strongish in science. That's a normal person. Imagine if you had somebody here, 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 and here. Is that possible? Is there anybody who is good at everything? Man.
Not possible.
Not possible.
Yeah, not possible.
Not possible. Not possible. Who said Narendra Modi? Can he be good at everything? Not possible, right?
It's not possible.
Okay, but ask the kids. They can be, I'm sure they can do everything well, right? So we define our leaders without sometimes, our biases make them leaders. We indicated our bias when we said my kid is my leader without defining leadership. And the kids defined a bias when they said my parents are my leaders. Because in every situation they may not be leaders. I don't think I'd be a leader for my kid in every situation. Right? It's impossible. There must be some attributes that I may have that my child may say, I absolutely don't like that you have this attribute. Right? So it's important for us to know, for ourselves and for our children, what is it that we must reinforce? This is an attribute that we should be proud of. And what is an attribute that we must acknowledge we don't have and either work on if it's attitudinal or give up our hands and say, on this I'm not good. So, do not make your child feel embarrassed. You know, sometimes we say, okay, beta, please quickly can you sing this song? Uncle and auntie are here. No, it doesn't happen in this generation. If the poor kid doesn't like to sing the song and you've heard your neighbor's kid always sings and is a hot favorite, you say, okay, it doesn't happen in our generation, it used to happen in our... You have to go and say, okay, Jack and Jill went up the hill, in fact... Right? Nicole? True. It happened. Shankar, I think, is laughing the most, so it's happened all his life to him. And what do kids do after that? They don't show up. Sorry, I'm not well. I refuse to come. Nowadays, kids just don't come. Right? Because parents are embarrassing. Very, very embarrassing. So keep that in mind. Play up the strengths. Let them be normal if they're not good at something. Does anybody disagree with this? Anybody guilty of doing this? Because we want our kids to be good in everything. There was a famous Unilever ad, how can his shirt be whiter than my shirt, right? When it came to some detergent. It's okay. Your kid can be less bright. It doesn't make the kid not a good singer, but certainly not going to make it to the Grammy. It's okay. Not everyone needs to, but your kid could just be in the cricket team or do something else. So we just have to discover our leadership traits, and that's what we're trying to do. And frankly, every company, wherever we work in, that's what we try to do. When we hire people from colleges, when we hire people to work with us, or even when we work across, we sometimes keep stretching ourselves, and we ourselves should stretch ourselves to be able to discover leadership traits. Leadership traits are situational. Leadership traits change with time. What was good and kosher and worked in the past may not work in the future. So, we have to keep discovering it, we have to keep reinventing it. And if that is true, how many of you agree that's true? If that is true, then none of us are qualified to decide for our kids what they should do. Do you agree with that? Yep. Because if everything is evolving and changing, we are certainly 50 years too late. I'm assuming 50 because that's the end where I am. So the question is, are leaders made or born? Made. Who said made? Very good. So that's one made. Born? Made. Always made. Born. Who hasn't answered? So, made. So there are more made so far. So?
They become.
Okay, so they evolved. They made. They made.
Some are born, some are made.
Diplomacy. So that's the normal curve in the center.
Both.
Both. Now we are getting the diplomats.
Born and made.
Born and made. So now we are getting contaminated. We're all saying safe options. Let's hear the youngsters. Yes.
Leaders are always born, they just haven't discovered it yet. So they're not made.
Very good.
He said everybody is a born leader, but due to contamination, a lot of them.
Very good. Very good. Frankly, everyone has leadership in it. So we are born with it. So, because everyone has been a 1 year or a 3 year. Do you know anybody who's not been there between 0 to 3 years? Only Benjamin Button, right? He went the other way around. Otherwise, everyone goes through that. So everyone is a leader. The question is, did you realize your leadership qualities? Whether it's contamination. So it's possible to do both. But yet we say, my kid is not a born leader, so and so I can make a leader, and then we impose our own standards. Go back to all my questions. I want you to be the best chartered accountant, I want you to be the best pilot, I want you to be the best cricketer. Why? Let the kid do everything, throw them into the big backspace, let them identify stuff that we don't even know today, and you'll find that the future is not indicative of the past. So basically, it's hard to believe. This is a busy slide, so I'll read it to you. History is not made. History is not made by heroes and villains. But yet, when stories are told, you always have stories of Hitler, or you have stories of Napoleon, or you have stories of people who did, even, when you talk about countries' freedoms, there's always one leader. Movies are made on one person. But there's a whole movement. So many people give up their lives. It's a series of incremental actions of many who make that possible. No country got freed because of that one person who gets written about in history. Since you used India as an example, a country I come from as well, and we talk about Narendra Modi, he may be a leader, but he can't do it alone. He has to be able to facilitate, create an ecosystem, and be able to do it in a manner that it can happen. If you believe that only leaders exist, then you will all step back and not play a part. And similarly, we will not let people lead in what they are good at. And leading is not being the boss, leading is about sometimes being the follower. Leader is one who can make a difference. Historians only use it as a way because it's a good way to tell a story. Right? One of the best phrases that people say, I did this is a case of overnight success. Have you heard that term? Is there any reality in overnight success? It's an oxymoron. But once you've made it rich, everyone needs a story. So Richard Branson has a story. Jacqueline Novogratz has a story. Because without a story, you don't sell. Right? Then, even Narendra Modi says he was a tea boy. It's a great story. It gets attention. That is a tactic. It's no longer something to be. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean every tea boy will become a prime minister. It doesn't mean everyone who is not a tea boy can't become a prime minister. But what it means is you need stories to galvanize people. So communication is important. And often history overestimates people's capabilities. Right? There is a saying that we all overestimate our own intelligence and other people's money and wealth. Isn't it true? Everyone believes I'm the smartest. Anybody here who believes he's not? But man, he's got more money than me. Right? You see somebody driving a Bentley, he's so rich. He may be heavily in debt right now, Nate. Right? Some of us in banks know what really happens. So we go with what we see, and we want to be with the flashy things. So sometimes do not get don't get affected by that glare, because how many people, how many kids here, how many parents here want their kids to be investment bankers? How many parents? Just one? Two. Of course, but I'm just saying, what's your aspiration? How many of you want your kids to be consultants? No. Okay, what do you want your kids to be? Suddenly nobody wants. They want the kids to decide what they want to do. How many kids want to be investment bankers? Rock stars. Michael Jordan, what do you want to be? Michael Jordan's probably wrong generation, right? But very often these biases exist. And we have a halo effect on certain things based on our experiences that may not be right. And it could be conscious, it could be unconscious. And it actually stunts our growth, and it leads to a situation that many people never realize. There are two things that have always been an inhibitor of talent in the world. The first we can do nothing about until it's a slow process. It's poverty. There are so many bright entrepreneurs and Mark Zuckerbergs and Bill Gates out there, billions of them, who never get formal education. Many of them don't get access to money, wealth or opportunity, but they are probably smarter. So many of them could never become what they did because they didn't have an opportunity. So we all have to work very hard to create jobs, to get people out of poverty. It's so important in a lifetime, more important in your lifetime for the young adults, because if you don't make an inclusive society, the world will crash around you, there will be more crime. On the other side, it's education. It's openness. If we have to be able to make a call as parents that there is an opportunity for us to be inclusive, every kid in the neighborhood, every kid in my friend circle can be a leader. I should be proud. And it used to happen when we were younger. When a colony kid came first or did well, the whole colony would celebrate. Today, she got this and why didn't you get it? Right? And that's where jealousy comes in and the effect runs into people. So we have to be far more inclusive. People too can change. Skills that you don't see in your kids today sometimes come up. There's so many things I'm discovering later in life about myself because I never tried it. I never got a chance to do it. I was inhibited. And there's so many things that I tried and never did well. So I was only being able to reaffirm that I'm not good at certain things. But allow yourself to change as your exposure happens. So why not give exposure early? And as they say, even old dogs can learn new tricks, right? So keep on practicing, introspect, practice. You're all born with the right hardware. Go ahead and keep practicing. Don't believe that impossible is anything. All you have to do is push your kids into the discomfort zone. If you haven't gone through pain, you haven't had any gain. So never protect your kids. And that's why we say double the work. Mariam, increase the work. People are complaining and say, what kind of crazy program are you trying to be a university? Double the work. Give them another assignment. Because if you do that in the real world, what will happen for those of us dads who work and moms who work? If we tell our bosses, I can't handle it, what's he going to do? Either he'll say bye-bye, or he'll give you more work, or he'll stretch you, or he'll cut your pay, or something, right? Or you'll fall out of favor. So in life you have to constantly push yourself. Because fundamentally everyone is that young kid who has all the hardware. It's a question of how you face it. So why are we here today? I'm sure all of you knew that in any case. Partly to show you our office. How many of you believe that's true? Okay, why do you say that? No. You've just taken the gas out of my system. No. Okay.
Understand what your program is more about.
Yes.
So that we can, to understand what the program is about, and so that we can work on the same line process and encourage them, and that we can go hand in hand, and so these two things can be double up, like, you know.
So we can become partners and complement each other.
Yes, precisely.
And also to understand a bit more about, you know, our kids, and can they, you know, what qualities they have, and what we should be really concentrating.
So learn a bit more about our kids, be with an open mind.
We are here primarily to thank Dunia team to conducting this fantastic program, honestly, because
happy parents. So I'm sure next year you will have a much brighter batch. And
Absolutely.
I think it's a great job that you guys are doing.
Absolutely. So if I understood you right, ma'am, you're saying we're trying to influence each of you, make you ambassadors who will also carry the same cause. And the answer is right. I agree with that. The intent is, we are certainly not doing it for marketing. I'll be honest with you. If we were doing it for marketing, we could have hired an agency, done it for 2 days, advertised it, put it in a hotel, given kids an iPad, and all of you would have been very happy and given a certificate, right? If you notice, one thing unique about this program is we don't use any external consultants. We all volunteer time. We give our own time. Parenthood, there's a difference between being a parent and a nanny. Right? How many of you agree? For us, Dunia is our baby, and we want to use it not just to earn money or to create customers and to make profits. By the way, we are very successful. We are proud of that. But we are successful because we do it with a heart. And the intent is, my condition was, when Miriam said when we thought of this program, was to do it in a manner such that we volunteered our time. So actually we put in 3 weeks of our time, morning to night, and make sure we give back and take away from our work. Many of them are fasting. Miriam has been fasting for a long time. Takes the course, takes the program. Many people are doing it, but we are very clear that quality must not go down. We go through agonizing detail to find out, because this concentrated capsule has to help kids expose their minds to it so that they can go out and make a difference in the world they go. If we have today touched 160 lives, young kids, there have been another several hundred who didn't make it, but we stay in touch with them on the program because we can't take more. And there have been twice as many parents. And each of them as ambassadors talk about the program. Yes, 2 days ago there were 6 students from the previous batch who insisted on coming and talking to them. There's a community built. We've already had some people build clubs where they're giving back to people by creating changes. It is exactly as you said, ma'am. It is to create and multiply the effort, because it doesn't add to us on a financial sense, but it adds to us tremendously in knowing that the world that we are working on is good. And if each one of us do it, our kids will benefit. If we don't create a strong legacy, each one of us, then our world that we've acquired will be much poorer than the world we leave behind. Which means that our children are going to be working with far lesser resources and competing far more in a more populous world, and there will be fewer opportunities, which we don't want. And it is a responsibility that all of us have. So we have to discover, we are here to discover that parents and leadership are intrinsically linked. And we have an important nurturing and a guiding role. We don't have a goal of defining what people can do, because the future is very different. So if you find your child does things, I won't read the whole thing, but if your child lies to you often, you've either overreacted too harshly in life, and people have just assumed that I'd rather lie and get away with it than to have you react the way it is. If a child gets angry fast, it means that you have given very little attention to good behavior. These are some of the obvious things that take place. If your child is openly defiant, you openly threaten to do something but don't follow through. So sometimes everything that you're seeing not good in your child is a result of your own actions. We are the role models for these children in the good and bad way. We don't have to be role models for them to aspire to be us, but they watch us, and hence it is very important, and they assume that it is normal behavior. So it is always important for our kids to do well, and for you all to do well wherever you work, the youngsters, you need a good teacher, which is a good farmer. You need a good land, an ecosystem to be in, and of course you have to be a good seed. But everyone is a good seed, right? Everyone has potential. Who are the farmers? It's the parents, and the teachers, and the educators. But there can be nothing more important than the parent, which is why even God or nature made sure there were 2 of them. There's always a contingency solution. And like the Greeks did, there's a board. And the board has 2 of them who decide. Not one person can take a decision when it comes to a child's future. And it works. So it's a process of democracy. So a good leader, we've just realized, does many things. It's very hard to define a leader. Everything that you have there is a good leader. Good storyteller, very important. Takes responsibility, inspires others, is prepared to act and jump. What's the use of a leader who doesn't act? Is selfless, is fallible, is humble, is confident, has no hubris. You can go on as human, seeks recognition. You need all of these in different situations to be a leader. But most importantly, he should have failed. Right? Do you agree? How many of your kids have failed? If I asked you this question up front, you would have never put up your hands. Right? How many of you wish that your children fail? How many of you wish that your children fail? Why, ma'am?
That's how they learn. That's how they learn.
Because it's there, or you believe in it?
I believe in it.
And she believes in it.
Yeah.
I agree with it. She agrees too.
I've experienced it.
And experienced it, yes.
Myself and with my children.
And she's experienced herself, sorry I speak for you, and her children.
Yeah.
Same here. So does everyone agree and wish that the kids fail?
No.
Who said no?
Failure is a very negative word.
Okay.
If you don't succeed at something does not mean you failed. You
Ex-
attempted, that's brave enough.
Excellent. So not failing is a negative word. Failing, there is nothing called failure. If you've attempted and you've learnt one way of not doing something, right? I'd like to show you a short video. Very, very short. How many of you have seen this? You've seen it?
After being cut from his high school basketball team, he went home, locked himself in his room, and cried.
Michael Jordan.
He wasn't able to speak until he was almost 4 years old, and his teachers said he would never amount to much. Was demoted from her job as a news anchor because she wasn't fit for television. Fired from a newspaper for lacking imagination and having no original ideas. At age 11, he was cut from his team after being diagnosed with a growth hormone deficiency, which made him smaller in stature than most kids his age. At 30 years old, he was left devastated and depressed after being unceremoniously removed from the company he started.
Steve Jobs.
A high school dropout whose personal struggles with drugs and poverty culminated in an unsuccessful suicide attempt.
Eminem.
The teacher told him he was too stupid to learn anything, and that he should go into a field where he might succeed by virtue of his pleasant personality. Rejected by Decca recording studios, who said, "We don't like their sound, they have no future in show business." His first book was rejected by 27 publishers. His fiancée died, failed in business, had a nervous breakdown, and was defeated in 8 elections. If you've never failed, you've never tried anything new.
So in some ways that's what you said, and you should wish, actually I wish I had failed earlier in life, because when failure comes later in life, which it does, it breaks you much faster if you've never experienced it. So build muscle, because failure is one thing you will repeatedly face in your life. Disappointment, loss, you'll always face it. So you might as well make sure that you make your kids experience it faster, and then learn to teach them how they must learn to build themselves out of it. So this is a very, very important attribute. So never be scared of failure. When people say my kid failed a class, it's such a horribly negative word. It's just that they're going to take more than 1 year to learn what is needed in that class, and then they can move further.
These failures are not failures. They went on to become so big.
Yes.
So they are hardly termed as failures.
Exactly.
Super successes.
And that was the intention of showing it. Of course, it's important. This is again, as I said, you need heroes and villains to be able to make a point. Yes, you need a story. And in some ways, this is very important for us to be able to stir our thoughts, but it becomes very hard to practice. It's not easy to know that your kid has failed. But it's so important for your kid to know that when a kid is facing a challenge, that at that time, you're being supported. Because a good kid, and all kids are good, will grow out of it. Just like those who play golf, occasionally your ball lands in the bunker, right? It's a bad shot. You've got to give up a shot, but you can, if you know how to get yourself out of the sand, you can still win the match. So parents have a role in bringing the best. At the end of the day, you as parents, everyone as parents, have the role of providing the nest egg and the support, and wishing that they can build them the muscles and the wings that they can know how to fly. You don't tell your kids where to fly, you just give them wings to fly. If they have wings and they were wired right by nature, they will know where to fly. Tell them to reach for the stars. Don't define the stars. Don't tell them corporate banking, investment banking, consulting, being an astronaut. Just tell them to remain rooted to the ground. You can stand tall. Don't be a person who doesn't have his head on his shoulders and feet on the ground. That's a terrible position to be, right? You should always have your head on the shoulders. You should always be humble and teach kids that it's important to be humble, because this has to be a rise of a sharing economy. We have to take people along. It's such a difference from the world we grew up. It was a dog-eat-dog world. We needed to be better than the other one. Winning and losing was absolute. Today, winning and losing is not absolute. Winning and losing today is cross-border. There was a time when the world's most powerful countries were UK, then Germany, then the US. Today, the world is not the preserve of a country. It's the preserve of the minds and the bright, intelligent minds that exist in the world. Today, two kids, one from Japan and one from India, can sit in their respective countries and create a business that can rule over the world in a garage. This ecosystem didn't exist. So you have to learn how to be able to conceptualize your technical skills, work in partnership, create value, and you have the ecosystem to be able to grow. So parents should motivate kids to give them wings to fly and to be firmly rooted to the ground. Never to say, go there, be so rich, be so strong, or tell them, you must do that, you must go to America, you must go to so-and-so, you must become the managing director of this. No. If you have the right wings and muscle, and you remain rooted in your values, you will always achieve the other thing. And who knows what, you might go further than the stars if there's anything further than that. So it's very, very important that this balancing act be kept, but it's very hard to do it. Do any of us ever feel we fail to do it? I do, if that helps. Or all parents are perfect here, the perfect balancing act. We don't. And think of these youngsters whose minds are still uncontaminated. And they have other things in my mind. How many of them feel later in life, I wish I had done this. I wish I had been able to do this. We were pursuing the wrong dream. So we never discover those areas where we are outliers. And the world loses yet another opportunity to get yet another of those famous failures. So while there are a few famous failures that became famous because of success, there are so many other failures that were never given a chance to succeed again. The first line is, real life heroes are not heroes and villains. They don't come in special dresses. They are not out from DC Comics and Superman and Batman or Wonder Woman. But that's what we need to convince us. But real life heroes are here. Real life heroes, each one of you are a real life hero. We just have to discover the situation. And we all have a responsibility to make it happen. And we have to be welcoming of the fact that those not in our... each of us can have 20 heroes. When we start thinking of role models, when I asked you this question, most of us struggled and gave one or two names because we're looking for those heroes and villains. Some of them we give very emotional connects to, like our family members. Yes, they are heroes. There's nothing wrong with them. But they may be, your maid may be your hero. Your neighbor may be your hero in another situation. Your kid may be a hero. The neighbor's kid could be a hero in some other situation. There's this story of this child yesterday, an 8-year-old girl who saved her brother, a 4-year-old boy in a pool. A hero, right? So we all need to acknowledge that there can be more than one heroes. And we all secretly do. When do we take care of our hubris and admit it? Because if we all become welcoming, the world will become better. And that's when this will be a true balancing act. And how leaders can be made, and this is a song which we would have played, but I think you can listen to the song yourself. But it's a song called Own It. It's one of my daughter's favorites, and it's something I heard through her. But it's a very nice line. It says, all my dreamers, all my believers, tomorrow's leaders, if you've been dreaming for all your life, this is your chance. Everybody is a star. It don't matter who you are. Keep on reaching for your dreams, because it isn't crazy as it seems. How many of you have heard the song? Right? It is a beautiful song, but in some ways, a song too tells you how important it is to own it. And look at the line. The chorus says, I want to own it. I wanna own it. I want to own it. I want to own it. Right? And it's the stubbornness. If you've got this damn desire to be able to own it, and we can later when we congregate, we can play the music, because you have to be, anybody can be famous. It doesn't matter what your name is. It's your moment, baby, claim it. Get out, go out and own it. You've got to be like that 2-year-old kid and say, I'm gonna get it, right? Because I'm a dreamer, I'm a believer, a tomorrow leader, and I've been dreaming for all my life, and this is my chance. How many of us have given up our chances in life? I wish I could be young again, because I would run my life very, very differently. And it's not been a bad life, but I wish I could do it very differently. So let them live their lives. They're lucky, they're resourceful. And do not make it a situation where sometimes people say those with resources are often not resourceful. So those with resources should be even more resourceful. But it is a fact. Countries with large resources are often not creating people who are resourceful. Families who have huge resources often do not create children or family members who are as resourceful, because the fire goes away. That's very important. So remember this song, children and leaders can be made with a single-minded passion, focus and belief through mentorship, care and continual stretching. Put them, give them knowledge and make them see the future. When you drive back, I asked the children this, when you're going to drive back home, are you going to look at the windscreen or the rear view mirror? How many of you will look at the rear view mirror? Anyone willing to drive back today by only looking at the rear view mirror? How fast would you go? You won't reach, but you'll try to drive? You won't drive, you'll stop. So have a forward-looking view. So we should not be the rear view mirror, but you should look, when you're looking ahead, for 1 second look at the back, because you want to look at the back and navigate. But 99% of the time look at the front. So learn from the past, which is the roots you have been given, but let your kids see the future, because what they see, you and I don't see. The opportunities they have, what they're learning, the ecosystem, the systems and computers they are exposed to, the music they listen to, the feeling and the language they speak to. And this I said to the young adults when I spoke to them first day. I said, how language has changed. Be honest with me. How many of you when you were young said, I freaked out? What did it mean to each of you? Huh? When you were young and you freaked out, what did you do? You didn't use the word. Did anybody use the word? Who said that? Who said had fun? Yes. Sorry? Play in the rain. Well, when we were young, we used to actually use the word for freaking out meant having a lot of fun, right? Today, when kids get freaked out, they get damn scared. It took me a long time to understand it. Right? Isn't it? Sir, the shirt you're wearing is sick. Are you upset with me? Huh? You don't mind me saying that, right? Right? Does Ragini mind it?
No, I don't.
What does it mean to you when I said your shirt is sick? I don't like it. Okay, Ragini, what do you think?
In our generation, it means it's a pretty cool shirt.
Hey! Talk about generation gap, right? I wouldn't dare say your shirt isn't good. I actually said your shirt is very nice. See? What you believe is correct is not wrong. I mean, that's the generation gap we are sitting on. We all think we are cool, but when I was saying, I find this sick, and my daughter told me, you know, Papa, I just saw the movie, it was sick. I said, oh God, what's wrong with it? She said, what do you mean what's wrong with it? It was an awesome movie. Right? So if I come to you and say, sir, let's go have some fun, what are you going to say to me? Or why don't you ask me? Why don't you ask me, will you have fun? Let's go out and have some fun.
Cool, let's go.
I'm down. I'm down. So what have I told you?
I'm done, you said?
I'm down.
You don't want to do it.
Huh?
You don't want to do it.
I don't want to do it. What did I say?
That you do want to do it.
I do want to do it. Do you realize when we were young, we used to say, I'm up for it, let's go. These kids say, I'm down, which means get cracking, we're out, right? How little you know your kids. You got to be cool if you want to keep with the times. So when you don't know the language, who are you to tell them what to do? Because they're now sick and they're down and they freak out. This is an alien race, right? You and I, by the way, your reaction was right. And by the way, sir, your reaction was right about your shirt. But my meaning was different. I just made myself younger because I learned this. But it's true. Someone told me you're sick. Years ago, someone told me in the US, I called up, I was in Citibank and I was talking to someone and I said, let's do this. And the person said, seems like a plan. So I said, no. It's not a plan. Trust me, I'm not scheming. And this person burst out laughing. Because what does it mean? Sounds like a plan?
Let's do it.
Let's do it! But in my generation, when it sounded like a plan, it seemed as though I was scheming, I was working against you, I was going to do something which is not nice. So we also have to learn. So, please learn the forward trends. And I'm going to quickly tell you the trends. The trends are, whatever you do in life, prices will go up. You are competing in a world with too many people, more and more people going for fewer resources, so make sure that you increase resources. Do not be consultants and investment bankers who actually destroy resources. Any investment bankers here or consultants? You hire a consultant to reduce jobs, to cut expenses. You hire an investment banker to merge two companies and then fire half of them, right? Sorry, that's not the service sector we need. Emerging markets will become bigger, like it or not. So don't just rush to the Western markets because you couldn't go there. Growing inequality. People rich will get richer and the poor will get poorer. So get rich by experience, get rich by working hard. Do not sit and mope and cry because the world is not going to wait for you. Go back to basics. Integrity and governance in this world, as Shankar said, will become more and more important. Morality is more important, especially as social media grows. People will not tolerate anybody doing negative stuff. A lot of people say a lot of bad things happen today. A lot of bad things always happen. It's just that they get reported and talked about today. Right? Women will be more empowered. This is my favorite. The next generation is for women because women were always the leaders at home. They were the mothers. They controlled the children. They controlled the house. They controlled the health. They controlled the money. They shaped the children. But now, sorry? They control the husbands too. But now, they're also educated. They also step out and they work. And when you go to Dubai Mall, how many shops out of 100 sell products for men? 10 out of 100? Okay, when you go to a store like Harvey Nicks, how big is the men's section and the women's section? So, black, brown, grey, blue, right? Stripes or no stripes, checks or no checks, right? Shoes, that's it. But all the money in the world, all the factories in the world are pumping away stuff. And now they are entering corporate boards. Now women are becoming educated and running businesses. Every college wants to have diversity and have 50% mix of women and children. What does it mean? That the guys in this room had better start thinking like women. Don't become women, but you have to start thinking and realizing that you too will be dealing with clients and influencing leaders. This is another billion of market that is opening up. It's not just emerging markets. So products, influence, share of mind is all going to be there. So start building those sensitivities. Don't start dressing up like women. That's not my intent. Social media will grow and it's going to be the new engine for growth in the rising sharing economy. It's a very good article today that appeared in Gulf News again, which talked about how governance will come into it. Airbnb, Uber, all of them are getting regulated, but they are realities. They are driving new synergies, new productivity in the world, so don't ignore it. These trends will completely change the way people are going to be integrated. Devices are integrated. Data is today recorded. Integrated platforms are getting created. When all these forces move together, the world is truly flat. And what we can only now talk about and read, we can't think, these young adults are going to understand it. And actually they're also about 16 years too late, because the new generation kids will grow up thinking of cloud, data, much, much more differently. But they still have time on the side and they're going to learn. So don't ignore it. You've got to figure out how they use these devices and shapes, so expose them and trust them to be able to use it sensibly. The soft power is more important than hard power. No longer will control and command like the armies and all will work anymore. We've seen this in the Arab crisis, we've seen this everywhere in the world. People have to win, and so do companies have to do, and so this is soft power, why we do the Young Business Leader. We want to make a change in the minds of people, because that's what I believed in. Even when we ran the business, we said we are different guaranteed. I've been a financial services person always. I did say there were 8 or 9 things that will be non-negotiable in how we run our business. Integrity, transparency, reporting standards, being avant-garde, being the highest and the best and the brightest on every parameter. We can't be the biggest because we are too young, but we can be the smartest. But we must be known for good qualities. Hire the best people. From day one, we went to the top schools of the world to hire. We don't hire because we don't believe, but we only want the brightest talent, not because we don't believe others are not good talent, but we want the best to serve the larger group. Culture, integrity, partnering with people is very important. So this to us is our community exercise. A lot of companies talk about giving back to community, but we don't give back to community. We never sign a check. If we can't do it ourselves, and our entire management team works relentlessly for this. This is about what each one of us need to do in our lives, the people around our ecosystem. If we can truly open up opportunities and make a change, then you'll be so surprised that what goes around comes around. So many of our kids have now gone from earlier batches to colleges like Princeton, Wharton. They come back, they're doing well, but it's wonderful to see them do well, and then they write back to us as to how they were shaped in their thinking in terms of doing and choosing their careers differently. The world will not be the preserve of any country or wealth. It will be the preserve of minds. If you have knowledge, you're going to win. Nobody can beat you, even if you fail. Because you'll find, like each of those people, all those people were bright. They were famous failures, but they were all bright and good at what they did. Past is not an indicator. We just talked about it. We're not going to drive with the past. We showed it in terms of how we drive our cars. And of course, what down meant to you and down meant to them, what sick meant to you, what sick meant to them, what freak meant to me and what freak meant to them, shows that the past is not an indicator of the future. And they too will learn in life. So by the way, this is a lesson for you too. So don't be dogmatic about what you do. Integrity is very important. The one thing in this world of transparency is you have to be high on integrity. And the reason I say this in the corporate world is integrity is missing. There is one relationship where there is always high integrity. The relationship all of you represent, parent to child, is always a high integrity than themselves. That's the only reason all of you have left your offices and come here promptly at 2:45. If we called you otherwise for a social event, you would have swaggered in, right? Because it's for your kids, not because you care a damn for Dunia. It is for your children. So this is the only relationship. And if we could transform this into the way we do our business, if teachers could do that for their students, if we could do it for our workers, if we could do it for our neighbors, the world will be a better place. But we need it, because remember, the first thing I said is crisis is going to go up, and crisis eventually, like sickness, affects all of us. We will be, however rich, however strong you can be, if the masses around us are not included, we will be destroyed. Our world, our dunya needs leaders. Let's commit to making those around us leaders. So suddenly, I hope all of you go back believing that there are leaders other than the ones in your house. And look for leadership and shaping them for your children where they are. Help them step out of their comfort zone. Accept and learn from their failures, which I think this group is very, very kind about. But this is a Khalil Gibran line. Your children are not your children. I'm going to just read. You may give them your love, but you can't give them your thoughts, for they have their own thoughts. So this is a bit of a different line. You may house their bodies, but not their souls. Let their aspirations be different. For their souls dwell in the house of tomorrow, which you cannot visit, not even in your dreams. You don't know it. You never knew that being down was being up. You may strive to be like them. I can try to learn this language, but I cannot seek to make them like me. Right? So if anybody has to change, the young adults feel great, your folks have to change. You guys don't have to change. For life goes not backward, nor does it tarry with yesterday. So we are the past. You are the bows, parents are the bows from which the children as living arrows go forward. So you are the spur that sends them on. The archer sees the mark. You are the archers. And he bends with all his might so that his arrow goes far. So you have to work very, very hard. And this is an important line. And hence it's an important relationship to do. And it's not just for your children. If you could do this for one more, two more people around you, it would make such a difference. The youth of today have most at stake, because their life is not going to be easy. When we were born, I think the population of the world was about 3 or 3.5 billion. Today it's about 7. By the time these guys will be in their 50s, it is going to be 9 billion. The resources are not going to go up. New things have to be found, so they better have the right skills. So make them confident, make them risk takers, make them optimistic, help them read young, experimenting and failing kinds, because they will have to change many skills in their lives, much more than we had to, because the world today moves much faster. Make them happy, and that's the famous song which many of you have heard of. But nothing should bring you down. Give it all that you've got. And I think that's the end of what I wanted to say. But it's very important. I hope I've been able to make you think a bit, change the way you've I know all of you have thought about it, but sometimes we have to force you to sit down for 2 hours, go back with healthy respect, have an open dialogue. And I think the kids have to do the same. By the way, this is not a badger parent session. This is about kids to realize how much it means and how big stakeholders parents are. And so when they go back at the end of a busy day and get upset with you, the kids too should remember. So I know I've held you for too long. We wanted to show you Dunia. But I hope you're happy doing it.
Mustafa has little interest in business, has more interest in political science and international relations. Yet, I was really quite surprised how enthusiastic he's been around the program and how beneficial he thought it was for him. He comes home, we discuss issues related to business, we discuss the program, and this has been a really great experience for him as a student, as a youngster, and for us as a parents as well.
I think the whole process was very exciting. Right from the form filling, it almost felt like a university application form with so many questions, and it was great because he got involved with trying to answer his own questions. Then the interview process, which was also nice, it was in 2 stages. And coming here, I think it's made him a little more committed to himself. It's made him understand what he likes and doesn't like, and what he would like to do and not do. So in the whole process, there is always a learning experience, which I think he's really happy about.
I think it's been a great experience for her. When she was starting off, she was a little reluctant. I saw her fill out the form. She was like, it's hard filling out the form, too many questions, but ever since she's been in here, the interaction between myself and her has increased. She's been really fantastic. We have really great conversations, things that she found difficult, things that were fun. So it's been a really great experience.
We're Dunia. We do things differently.